Good morning. Welcome back to Pastor's Morning Walk. I just had to show you this beautiful dogwood. I've been amazed at how they are a deep red. I'm looking at one across the way. It has a slight orange tint. But most of them are turning now this deep purple. It's marvelous how God made this world, and I regret that I have not spent more time observing the beauty of the creation. There's that one you see slightly orange. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Wow. Wow. Glory to God. I also saw this morning that the beech trees have begun to shed their seeds, and they're full of meat now. So the boys and I in the boys' school did some work to harvest them. I was pleased with that. This morning I read from Proverbs 9. And, I've got to stop. A reminder from Proverbs 8. Christ said that all that hate me love death. And this is just one of the many examples from my neighborhood here of how that's true. But if you look at that skeleton, he's at least making a wholesome political statement. Anyway, I was reading from Proverbs 9, and again, wisdom is speaking. And one thing she says is profound and proven by experience, that he that corrects a scorner getteth himself a blot. If you have to do the hard work of rebuking a man who is recalcitrant in his evil, it's not going to go well for you. Now, I thought about this verse before, and I don't think it's telling you that you should never do that duty. There is a time to reprove a scorner, especially when, as another proverb says, the simple are around, and so they can learn wisdom, even though the scorner himself will not, because he is a scorner. So it's not saying always spare yourself, but there does need to be a prudent evaluation of a person's likelihood to receive reproof before you give it. That is one factor that's important. I think in general men are too afraid to give rebukes because of the fear of reproach. But it is something to keep in mind. I think, first of all, though, that text is a warning against being a scorner. That it should be a great shame to anyone that he would were to refuse to receive rebuke. It goes on to say that if you rebuke a wise man, he will love you. And this is true. He'll say, as the psalm says, let the righteous smite me. It is a kindness. It'll be like oil for my head. So I encourage you in this. Be willing, yes, to give rebukes the right time and manner, but be willing to receive them. Part of a wise man to be able to be taught. I'll add, though, that a common manipulation in this age is for men to say of the firm, faithful, and upright man that he doesn't listen to anyone. Because you don't listen to him in his false rebukes, they say that you don't listen to rebukes. And you have to learn to submit your conscience to God and not men, and to know that you do listen to God ultimately, and to men when they agree with God. This takes practice and maturity It's easy to be swayed because the sensitive Christian conscience, yes, wants to be humble and tender under rebukes. But not all rebukes are sound. And we may not flatter a man by yielding to his rebuke simply because it's forceful, or simply because he's a friend, or even a pastor. This even extends to the rebukes of entire churches, even when they're coupled with the censures of churches. If they're not sound and biblical, it's actually our part to resist them, to oppose them, and not to yield to them. Otherwise, we are flattering evil men in their tyranny. So this duty of giving and receiving rebuke takes quite a bit of wisdom. May the Lord give it to you. The same chapter goes on to speak of a woman, a foolish woman, and it says something revealing about her, that she is clamorous. This is a reminder that we need to be careful of loud women. If you are considering getting married, this should be a red flag. If a woman is very loud. This is inseparable from the question of public and private. Men have been given a public vocation, and in the public sphere, there's a need at times and places to lift up your voice. But the woman's sphere is not public. It's private. It's domestic. The home, by its nature, is quieter than the forum, than the public sphere. And you need to be discerning about that, men, when you're considering a potential wife. You also need to be discerning about this when you are helping your own wife grow in godliness. You need to help her develop a meek and quiet spirit. Those terms are right to describe every Christian, but there's also a specific application, such as Peter makes, 1 Peter 3, to the woman, in which she has to have a special meek and quiet spirit appropriate to her sex. So beware the clamorous women. Beware being the clamorous woman. Beware always having to have and to express an opinion about things. Always to insert yourself in public conversation, especially when men are present. But even when they're not, I've seen, for example, in churches, things like signal chats go badly. They're made for a good purpose. The women want to coordinate about different things in the church, including fellowship meals. It has its place. But then one or two women, it's all it takes, can derail the whole group by turning it into a forum for airing grievances and talking too freely, especially about other sins, and especially about the sins of those in the church or the leadership. This shouldn't be. You need to guard your mouth and guard your heart. And women, then especially, need to develop the skill, to circle back to what I was saying at first, to offer a timely rebuke to other women. To be able to tell them, you shouldn't speak like that. You need to exercise self-control in your speech. So, the Lord give the women wisdom in this matter. I look forward to preaching tomorrow, and I'm thankful especially for a text I've been thinking about a long time, and it seemed best to consider now that we've had the Lord's Supper, our hearts are warm, and it's in Psalm 40, God's wonderful thoughts to usward. I've mentioned this text in a pastor's morning walk before, and ever since then been wanting to preach it. And I look forward to counting all the ways in which God's thoughts toward us are wonderful. It's a beautiful thing to think of ourselves, God's thoughts. He loves His people, and He loves to do good to them. And His mind is full of good thoughts toward them. This should comfort and encourage the true Christian and stir you up to form your thoughts accordingly, that you would have great and loving thoughts of God, who has always been from eternity thinking of you. Well, I encourage you to find a faithful church and to be in worship in God's house tomorrow. And may the Lord bless you in that worship.